explode from our 100th episode. Your computer might implode from our 100th episode.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Spokeable here yet again for MMOBomb.com, and welcome back to the Free to Play Podcast, episode 100. Oh, 3 digits. We are now 100 years old. A century of age has passed in the Free to Play Podcast here in this, I don't know, spectrum of wherever this podcast exists. But it is February 23rd, 2014, and like I said, guys, there was going to be something special about this episode. There was going to be, you could say, a little magic in the air. Just a little bit of something extra. And I'm very proud to, and very humbled, I guess, to introduce the originator, the creator, the madman himself behind all of this free-to-play podcast, Magic Man. How are you doing?
Hello, Internet. Well, it's great to be back, man. Like, I miss doing the things that you and I used to do, those double commentation videos.
I know.
Just random Let's Play videos. We had a blast doing that, like with Warframe and then that board game that we did with Jess. It was good
you
times,
kept stealing all the pieces? Ugh.
Yes, I did. And what was awesome about that was you guys noticed the first time, but you didn't notice the other ones until you watched the video playback.
I know. I was like, holy crap, there was all this like deceitful play, underhandedness. I'm just here trying to commentate this video. He's trying to, like, you know, completely turn the rules around on me.
All the MMO bombers noticed, though. They totally said was all the comments. You cheated. You cheated.
I suggest if you guys haven't watched that video, you go back. It is a treasure. It is a gem among the free-to-play podcast videos. And of course, we can't forget our always, you know, tried and true, old faithful Jason Winter. How are you doing, man?
There you go, calling me old again.
Oh, come on. You're just like...
Every episode,
You're rock solid. You hear it all the time.
Oh, I feel like the young guy, though, because you guys are like the old hands at this, and I'm just kind of sitting around for the ride. Like, you guys talk about this old stuff you did, you know, 30, 40 years ago, or whatever it was, you know.
30, 40 episodes ago.
Yeah, you know, what?
Jason
Same
Winter.
thing.
I've never heard of Jason Winter. Have we met, sir?
I've never seen you before in my life.
The internet is bigger than MMOBomb.com. People see
So
each other
they
say
say.
that. I don't know. Okay, so Magic Man. I understand it's been, let's see here, the original free-to-play podcast was on January 4th, 2012, but as you know, the internet is a big place. Not everybody knew about MMOBomb back then or the free-to-play podcast, so I have to ask, you're a guest here, what we ask all guests this, you know this. What?
Am I going to have to answer my own question here?
You will. What was the first MMO that got you into MMOs? What was your first MMO?
The very, very, very first one I ever played. I didn't get too deep into it, but first ever played was EverQuest Online Adventures for the PlayStation 2. And from there, I picked up Final Fantasy XI on the PlayStation 2 on launch day, and that's the one that I really fell into and was there for a long time. So WoW wasn't even something I considered playing because I was so invested in Final Fantasy XI. But very first was EQOA.
We actually have a really wide array of experience here at this table right now. We've got you who had the Final Fantasy XI experience. We got Jason over here with the Lord of the Rings experience, and then I guess just represent just like the common denominator. You know, I'm the WoW experience. I bring that to the table.
You know, it's you've forgotten that my first was actually City of Heroes.
Oh, see, but you have something other than WoW. That's the thing. Both of you didn't have WoW.
Yeah. I barely played WoW. Yeah, screw that game.
Oh, see, I played a ton of WoW, and I got very invested in it, but it wasn't until probably about 5 years into Final Fantasy XI when I finally started playing WoW and put a lot of time into it. So I got the experience. It just was nowhere near my first experience.
I guess technically my first experience was RuneScape, but I mean, for my age, you talk about us being old, but I'm younger than both of you. For my age, that was like a pretty early.
Keep reminding me.
That was a pretty early, MMO RuneScape, for playing that in the library.
Truth be told, I never played RuneScape until I was looking at the RuneScape 2 and RuneScape additions that they made and called it RuneScape 2. for MMOBomb, actually. So I was really late to the RuneScape party.
Wow. Yeah, I dabbled in RuneScape, I'd say 8th or 9th grade. That was like when I first dabbled in it. And then I played a little bit, but really just to get that copper armor. That was my main goal. And then once I got the copper armor, I just, screw it. No more RuneScape. That's all I needed. But, man, now that we've sort of caught up a little bit, I feel like we need to sit around here and drink a cup of tea, to really catch up.
Start passing around the beers, Jason.
I know, but we don't have time for that. We got to get on with this cast, and it's all right. We've got a great episode ahead of us. We got some really, really awesome news talking about Harmonix and their new musical chairs, FPS Chroma. It's not quite musical chairs, but it is wubstep guns, and who doesn't like wubstep guns? So, got some of that. We got some more sandbox news, and of course, we got all the comments from you guys, the viewers. So let us get right into it then. All right. So starting us out, we have something that we don't actually normally see. Number one, it's not a MOBA, Jason. It's not a MOBA. I know that's something that we really have to get out of the way always. It is a musical FPS. By the creators of some of the original sort of music-based games that we have on the Xbox, the Guitar Heroes, the rock bands. Harmonix, the studio, they've introduced Chroma, which essentially is a rhythmic music game, but set to the beat of bullets. Initial thoughts? Anybody like that idea, that cross combination?
Yeah, let's let that one sit for just a second.
Yeah.
It's a first-person shooter rhythm game.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just let that sit for a second. Let that marinate, let that bake a little.
So, on the one hand, it sounds awesome because you're like, oh, I can shoot wavelengths of sound, most likely Skrillex, because that's what everybody's into these days, at each other and just blast each other's faces off. Literally melt faces with music. I mean, I guess you could melt faces with polka music if you didn't want to go Skrillex route.
Truth be told, I'm really excited for this one.
I am too. I can't believe it's free to play. Honestly, I can't believe it's free to play.
Harmonix just does such a good job with addictive gameplay, right? I mean, they've got the rhythm game down pat, but not only that, Rock Band, all those games were incredibly addictive, and more importantly, easy to pick up, which is not something the FPS genre is really known for. If you're not terribly good at an FPS, then you're not terribly good at almost all FPSs. I think this is a nice little, they know their niche. They brought on the CSGO creators so that they could have some first-person experience.
Hidden Path Entertainment.
Yeah, Hidden Path, thank you. They've got a nice combination with what they do, what Hidden Path does. I'm actually looking forward to this one.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jason.
I was going to say, yeah, I mean, it sounds cool and it sounds weird, and I like the combination of it. And it's like they refer to in some of the stuff I read about it. It's like they're going for, I don't know whether they're trying to branch out into first-player shooters with their rhythm games, or whether they're trying to bring first-person shooters to a more casual, more mainstream crowd because the rhythm games did so well. So it's something that's got a lot of potential. It seems like it could really bridge that gap and tap from both audiences.
That's the thing. Like, you talk about it being casual, but I think it's casual in the FPS mechanics mainly just maybe because the fact that you're having to do all these other things at the same time. I mean, they talk about how you can't fire some of your weapons unless you do it in time or in sync and rhythm with the music. Can you imagine trying to play like a Guitar Hero song while trying to aim the guitar at someone and shoot them with bullets? Like, that's pretty hard to do. So I can see it definitely being like, I kind of worry a little bit about like if they can strike that balance between not being too casual in FPS to sort of scare away the FPS fans, but not being, too overly music based to where, the music fans are like, oh, it's too much of an FPS. The FPS fans are like, oh, it's too much of a music game. They have to sort of find that middle ground. That is one sort of concern that I do have about it. But there's some really cool, innovative features that they're bringing into this. It's not just music, you're not just shooting wavelengths of music at each other. There's like changing landscapes. The levels actually change based on where the song is, like where it's playing. You'll be able to have like new towers arise and new spawn points come out. And then they talk about the future of maybe even uploading your own music. Although somebody made a good point, I think, in a Reddit post where they're like, wouldn't someone just upload porn noises or, just screams, something different? Like what prevents them from uploading random things? So that is something to worry about, I guess.
Next round is Yanni. Let's go. Yes.
I prefer Zamfir, Master of the Panther.
So I have to ask, like, what genre of music would you prefer to play? Because they mentioned that they're going to have a bunch of genres that different, players can be able to choose, like, their loadout, essentially, of the different wavelengths they want to use for a particular genre.
Yeah, and they talk a lot about the beat being really important, right? The beat. Yeah. Keep the beat. Make sure you're doing your actions on the beat. The change up, the moment you talked about where they're going to alter the entire landscape on the change up in the music happens at set intervals. So, yeah, dubstep, obviously, techno, trance, all those types of beat heavy music really lend themselves to this. But I personally would put a little more rock in there.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how well it would do as far as the execution, but it would be fun as hell to play with something like the Stones going on in the background.
Can you imagine like a gun that's set to like the drummer, like a drummer's beat, like da 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 da, something like that? I can imagine that being like pretty awesome. They mentioned that there's separate classes for you to actually choose from, and each of the classes has its own sort of unique style of rhythmic play. For example, they mentioned the engineer. When I say they, I'm talking about not only Harmonix, but there was actually a nice article Rock Paper Shotgun did that talked to them, and they mentioned how the engineer would have basically the equivalent of a fretboard style thing on the side of the reticule, and you had to hit them in sync. You had to hit them like you would hit notes on Rock Band in sync in order for the gun to fire properly. Otherwise, you wouldn't get the bonus damage and such. So I think they aren't just taking the singular approach of adding in music and having you fire to that music. They're also letting people choose, like they did in Rock Band, what instrument they're playing, essentially, by choosing which class perhaps.
They're also using the classes to address your main concern that you brought up, which is totally valid on, does this appeal to first-person shooters more? Does this appeal to rhythm-based? They're using the classes to kind of segregate that. Like, they've given examples where the assault class is kind of meant for people that are more into the shooters than they are the rhythm-based games. You can just hold down your fire button and spray and pray and chuck grenades and all that stuff, and it's pretty first-person shooter. And then the engineer you mentioned is a little more on the other side of that spectrum, where you've got two guns, but you've got to go to the beat, and then they add the healers in with other mechanics like that. So it's a nice way of addressing the primary concern of which audiences does this actually cater to.
Speaking of the audiences, they did mention that there would be an option for like assisted aim, so players who wanted to just focus more on the rhythm could do so and not have to worry so much about the aiming mechanics. I don't really know how I feel about that. Even in a game that has rhythm as part of it, and like you mentioned, has these like different varying degrees of difficulty for those who are looking for a particular type of challenge, FPS or rhythm-based. I'm not really sure how I feel about any shooter that has sort of a lock-on mechanic, if you will.
Well, it seems okay to me if there is some other skill involved. Like you said, if it's involved, that's you say it's more for the rhythm people. If they can hit their beats properly, if then the aiming part is done for them, as long as there's some skill involved, then I don't really have so much of a problem with it.
Yeah, I guess maybe if they did it in like a beam weapon style way, where it was like a constant beam, it hit the player, but it didn't do as much damage. Something to sort of make up for the fact that they didn't have to aim as much. And Harmonix has said that they are making sure that no matter what style of music you're going to be playing, no matter what the beat or tempo is, the damage that you do is appropriate so that everything is balanced in that regard. No one class will have like higher amounts of damage because they have higher amounts of beats. There's not a lot, like more rhythm, which equates to more bullets in that case.
But so they are going to change things, like the sneak character, though. Which is like their equivalent of the sniper. That character has a meter that goes up and down. It fills up from 0 to 100 very quickly. And if you can hit that at exactly 100, obviously you got to aim too, right? But if you hit that at exactly 100, it's a one-hit kill every time. So there's not just damage, there's total other mechanics in these different classes, which really makes it get interesting. I'm just pumped that there might actually be a freaking first-person shooter out there that I may be able to kill someone. That's really exciting for me. You guys have no idea.
There was a video I saw a couple years ago on YouTube where they actually had someone have like a dubstep gun where they shot musical beams out of the gun at other people, and like that was the video. It was an Adobe After Effects video. And so immediately when I saw this, I just like, did they see that video and be like, yes, this has to be a thing, like this must be a thing now, because it's very similar. But we have a trailer, we have this announcement trailer. It doesn't actually give us any gameplay, but it does certainly sort of, I think, set the mood. And the art style, I have to say, is something I wasn't expecting. I mean, I guess I don't know what I was expecting for a musical FPS in terms of art style when you shoot wavelengths at each other. But it's got like a nice crystal kind of like, I don't know, it kind of reminds me of, Michael, you played World of Warcraft, the last fight in Ulduar that you had to unlock. And Algalon, is it Algalon? I think, where it's just
where it's all space. And
yeah, it was all space, and you can kind of see space in that one guy's face and stuff like that. Just very space themed. So kind of interested in.
I can't wait to kill Jason with Paradise by the Dashboard Light playing in the background. That's gonna be amazing.
Oh man, I just want to play like one of the power chord songs. That's like what I'm looking forward to. Like, you imagine like Dragon Force, you know, Fire in the Flames, or Forget. That old song on Rock Band, that was like the hardest song ever. Getting songs like that and playing that, just ripping people to shreds with that, like literally shredding them with the music. That's.
I'm uploading my kids Bop CDs. That's what I'm doing.
Beaver all the way.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Kids Bop.
Beaver headshot for the win.
That is my greatest fear, though, is that the music style that works best with my game style, my shooting style, is going to be something I absolutely hate.
Like pop
like
music.
If I want to win, I'm going to have to listen to Skrillex.
Bubblegum pop. It's okay.
It
It won't be a Skrillex. It'll be like Katy Perry or something, you know? Like Dark Horse. That's like her latest song.
To Skrillex, but that's just me.
Oh, really?
Hey man, I'm
like
huge in favor of genre blending games though, and this totally changes first-person shooter and rhythm. And Jason, you and I have talked about in numerous places trying something different in the not only the free-to-play landscape but the MMO landscape. This is what we're talking about. Take a gamble, try something, get the right people. Harmonix and Hidden Path, those are the right people if you're making this type of game.
Yeah, I mean, look how popular CS:GO is right now. Like, no one will argue CS:GO is not a good FPS. So with Hidden Path Entertainment handling the FPS mechanics, no one can say each of these companies doesn't know what they're doing within the spectrum of what they're working in. Like, no one can say Harmonix doesn't know music, and no one can say Hidden Path Entertainment doesn't know FPS. So there's a good chance for this to succeed. I'm just, like you said, Michael, I'm really surprised that this is a new, not a new genre, but a new style of genre that didn't first go to consoles. Yeah, it didn't go to consoles, or it wasn't a buy-to-play game first. This is sort of a brand new idea that came first to free-to-play, and that makes me super excited, obviously.
That does surprise me that it is free-to-play a little, I guess. Just because you think something that they're going to come out with, it's going to be this new and different. Yeah, again, I kind of think along the lines of Guitar Hero and that sort of thing. It's like, why wouldn't... It just seems odd to me. Like, when I first read about this, like, oh, this looks pretty cool, and it's going to be free-to-play? Really? That just seems odd to me.
Maybe and Alpha's not even out, and they've started talking about we don't want pay-to-win. No pay-to-win, no pay-to-win. So they're saying all the right things. It's an exciting project. Now let's just see the execution.
Yeah. If Kickstarter's taught me anything, a lot of cool projects, you know, there's a lot of projects that sound awesome. And then once you actually see it in the, working, you're like, I was expecting something more. And I think that's one of the issues that Chroma's going to have. And I think that's honestly why they kind of went free to play, is that what do you expect? What are you expecting when you hear about a rhythmic musical FPS? It's certainly not something you can quickly judge just from hearing facts about it. You're going to have to see how it plays. You're going to have to see how it plays and you actually try it to see whether or not it fits your style, because it is a mesh of two different genres. And I think that's maybe why they decided to go free to play with it, because how are you going to take a chance nowadays? How are publishers going to take a chance on something that's never been done like this, I guess even Guitar Hero back in the day was chance-worthy, but it seems like publishers are going the opposite direction.
Guitar Hero back in the day was funded out of pocket. If you go and do the research on how that all got started, publishers were wary of it, and so were retailers because of the shelf space it took up. So,
there you go.
Free-to-play totally makes sense for this type of thing. And I can't wait to shoot Winter with my guitar!
Ow!
I try to sing some sort of like dubstep sort of thing to make you scared, but I don't know how to do that without sounding awful.
I'm gonna
sing
Mike,
dubstep.
Wub,
There we go.
wub, wub.
I just-
headshot. I don't know. That's terrible.
It could be like, oh yeah, like, you know, it can be like soul music there, like Jason Winter got the hit shot.
I'm gonna win with gangster rap. That's what I'm gonna go for.
Gangster rap. I'll play Purple Rain. You know, I'll get like that kind of music.
Oh
You know.
my God.
Actually, what I want the 80s sound. I definitely want the 80s soundtrack. That's what I'll play.
80s seem like a very appropriate for this
I want to
game.
kill you with Def Leppard.
It's all the glass. It's all the glass. That's what makes it appropriate. That's what
Hair
hands.
bands for the win.
Exactly. Yeah, so they did say that there is a possibility in terms of what you're going to pay for. They mentioned being able to pay for some types of different loadouts for your musical instruments or your music itself, so you can change kind of the wavelength. It doesn't necessarily change the way the gun plays or anything like that, but it changes the sound of it, the pitch. They mentioned that kind of stuff. So they didn't really go into too much detail whether or not that's something you can also pay with in-game currency, and I'm a little bit worried about that. Hopefully that is something, because who doesn't want to change up how a song sounds, you know? Like, that's more than just a skin at that point. That's something that I feel like is an interesting sort of game mechanic to be able to play around with that.
That's the perfect thing to charge money for, because people are going to want that exact right sound.
Exactly,
So
I know.
So now at MMOs, they'll pay for cosmetics because they want just that perfect hat or a piece of armor for their character.
But you could argue that they could still do cosmetics in this. I mean, there's avatars. People can.
Well, there'll be some. I'm sure there'll be some available, but yeah, they'll sell quite a few of the cosmetic stuff.
Hopefully, they at least do something like, say, Loadout does, where they have a certain amount of loadouts that are free. You can change the wavelengths for free. But if you want to get more or additional ones, you'd have to pay for those slots, if anything. But, you know, still a long ways off. Still in alpha. Alpha begins this month, so I'm really anxious to see. Michael, I'm going to have to get you.
Are you my dad? Just Mike or Magic Man, for crying out loud.
Oh, gosh, I forgot.
We're friends. We're homeboys, man. Stop.
Magic. We got to go by our internet names when we're homeboys. It's reversed on the internet.
Winter's internet name is Trixie, though. Does that work? Are we still allowed to do that?
Oh,
Trixie.
That's only on that special website.
Oh. Well, I didn't mean to bring it up.
And you usually have to pay to call him Trixie.
Please accept my apology, sir.
Okay, well, Trixie Magic Man, I thank you for that input there on Harmonix. Chroma. Looking forward to that. I wonder how they came up with the name Chroma. I can't really... Is that a musical thing? Is Chroma a musical reference? I don't know. Is it?
I guess maybe it's to do with the art style, because it has that kind of shiny metal.
It does have a lot of chrome. There's a lot of
Chroma
chrome.
means purity or intensity of color.
There was some rainbow colors.
Yeah, it was very colorful in the trailer.
It was. So I guess music is also colorful. I see where they're going. It's the artsy people, you know, just it's artistic. Got calling it chroma like that. Speaking of art, documentaries. Those are art.
That was a segue like a bouse.
You like that? That was so
That was
smooth.
nice.
That was butter, man. I'm gonna give myself diabetes with all this smooth butter.
What?
I don't think that works.
I don't know.
I don't think butter is known to be diabetes causing.
Maybe if you eat American butter, you know, it's processed.
Yeah,
it's
we
not
put sugar in everything, so.
It's
Yeah,
not
pretty
actually
much.
butter. Remember, I can't believe it's not actually butter.
I can't believe it now.
No, but yeah, documentaries. Like we were saying, that this smooth has turned into a little bit bumpy.
We had the smooth segue, and then it just went.
I had to make a
Now
mention.
on, smooth segues cannot be pointed out.
No, they have to continue. Otherwise, we just have a train wreck eventually.
Otherwise, you have a butter crash.
The butter's too slippery. It gets out of hand. Free-to-play documentary. There's a free-to-play documentary coming out on March 19th by Valve, of all people. Valve's getting into the silver screen business. They got into the video game business. Now they're getting into the silver screen business. Eventually, they're going to get into the car business. Like, that's how Google's doing it, right? Google started with Google Engines, then they got into Street View, and now they're doing cars. And Valve's going to do something like that, right? They're getting into film? I don't know. They're doing a free-to-play documentary. It's called Free-to-Play, the documentary. Right there.
That is a creative title.
I know. It's kind of like redundant when you say, it's a free-to-play documentary called Free-to-Play, the documentary. Okay. I see what it's about.
The MMOBomb free-to-play cast. Wait, what?
Exactly. What's even more interesting is that it's not actually really about free-to-play. Like, when you watch the trailer, it's actually about 3 of the Dota 2 professional players in the first international championship for Dota 2, and like follows them and their background, and it kind of talks about esports in general. That's part of it as well. And at no point did it really reference the fact that Dota 2 was free, or that the whole esports thing was like brought on by free, which it wasn't. A lot of it was based on StarCraft. So I just kind of felt it was odd that they named it Free to Play, the documentary, when I guess it's only about one particular free to play game. But I don't know. Do you guys watch documentaries very often? Are you much of a connoisseur of documentaries?
I'll watch the occasional, like, almost like educational, historical kind of thing, but I've watched a couple like gaming documentaries, and they've never really impressed me. It's like a lot of other things with video games, that it's part of the business that they're just not quite on par with like the mainstream, with like the the big time documentaries, like, I don't know, Super Size Me or something like that.
Is it because the source material, like what
the source material is very esoteric, and it's also, it takes, a lot of them will take that very simplistic, like, here's what video games are about. Sometimes even adults play video games. Ooh, that's the feeling I kind of get with a lot of them. It's like, there was this one I saw about MMOs. I think it was done at a convention, and there was an interview with this one guy who was like, these video games, they're the devil's work, and it's just like all this like 1980s Dungeons and Dragons panic kind of stuff. It's
Second Skin.
No, I don't think it wasn't Second Skin. It was some really like even like way off the beaten path kind of thing that I saw on Hulu a couple of years ago. But I mean, to get to the name, I think they call it Free to Play, the documentary, for the same reason. On our site, this is MMOBomb, the free to play site or whatever it is. If it was just MMOBomb, nobody knows what that is. If this was the Champions of Dota 2 or whatever, yeah, okay, we know what it is. We know what Dota is, but they wanted to appeal to a slightly wider audience.
And that's the thing.
But even with that argument, does free to play by itself, just the term free to play, convey that to a bigger audience, do you think?
Yeah. I think it means more than Dota to people. Not necessarily, and even it also is going to get people looking at it who aren't fans of Dota or Valve. It's going to get people who like free to play games, or the word free always draws people in anyway for anything. So I think I think it's a move that they made to just increase its penetration a little bit, and not make it seem like just a Valve product. That's probably, even though it is a Valve product, it just covers Dota 2. I think it's something they did to try to broaden its appeal.
I just think it was
totally another concern. I'm sorry, another concern, right? Is that what can you really trust this? I love documentaries, right? But you always have to be careful with who is funding and or making the damn thing. And in this case, you have Valve making the documentary that focuses on Dota 2. You're not going to see anything negative here, right? Nothing. This is like having Chrysler document car making. They're going to be, or the NSA doing a documentary on internet security, right? It's going to be very what they want you to see.
Yeah.
So
it's
that's
going to be all the good things
for me.
Well,
exactly.
I mean, they did talk about, in the documentary, they showed a little bit of the trailer where it talked about one of the players, having like this tension with his parents about them not understanding about, gaming, and thinking that, he actually got kicked out of his house, it says in the trailer, because he was gaming. And so there is that conflict. They show sort of like how it can create that kind of strife.
But then he triumphs. $25,000 or whatever. Yeah, that's sure.
Yeah, that's
a human
thing.
story,
like,
or whatever.
You don't see the negative side of it, and maybe
they don't show that guy who died playing League of Legends in an internet cafe in China or whatever it was. They
should actually have, to be fair, they should have included like a team that there was recent reports of like League of Legends teams that they put all this money into getting the LCS, which is the championship series with League of Legends. And they put all this money in it, and then they fail. They don't actually succeed. And in this case, these are 3 players who make it to the championship. So you see them succeed, obviously. Otherwise, they wouldn't make it to the championship. So yeah, like Magic Man was saying, it's kind of like, all right, it's a free-to-play documentary, and it's free to watch. It's got this sort of generic name that maybe pulls in different people, and it's made by Valve, so that will pull in different people. But it's released on Steam. Who isn't already using Steam is going to watch it? Like, is it going to be on Netflix? Like, just Steam? I don't know.
I think they'd want to get it out there more, like I said, on Netflix or Hulu or even on YouTube or something, just to broaden the appeal. Because, otherwise, yeah, if you're already playing Steam, or if you already got Steam, you already know about Valve and Dota and so on.
Like, just to be clear, are we not in agreement that a documentary usually serves a purpose to document and show to the world something that they don't already know, right? Usually?
Or to push an agenda depending on who's
making it, exactly.
And maybe that's part of it too, is that they want, we all have knowledge of the whole pro gaming scene and whatever, but they want to show, even if you're not, that into it, they want you to be able to see what it's about and the triumph and the glory and the agony of defeat and whatever all that. So maybe that's the part of it that would still appeal to people who are on Steam or familiar with Valve and what have you.
I definitely think it is a fan service to Dota players, obviously, because of the fact that they're releasing like Dota packs with it. Like there's like actual skin packs for certain champions in Dota that you can, or heroes rather, that you can buy or will be able to buy when this comes out. So Valve does know, obviously, a large majority of their viewers of this documentary will be Dota players, because that's what it's mainly about. But I'm just sort of curious just to, like, who does this actually go to outside of the gaming audience? Like, who will watch it? For example, Indie Game the Movie. That movie right there, it's a documentary about, indie gamers, indie development. I think that has, in my opinion, a broader appeal than something like the premise of this documentary, because it appeals to something that players don't necessarily have firsthand knowledge of. And that's what happens behind the scenes in small indie development studios, and how they can, it does show like the rise and fall and and sort of like the stress that comes with it. You can see that in the players.
Yeah, you watch that and you're not surprised by what happened with Phil Fish at all.
No, you're like, yeah.
At all.
He basically says that he's going to kill himself if this doesn't succeed. Like, yeah, that's a lot of stress right there. So yeah, I don't know if that sort of emotion is going to be communicated through this documentary.
I'm concerned. I'm definitely going to watch it, right? I love documentaries. I love gaming. It's just a no-brainer that I'm going to watch the damn thing. But I'm a little bit concerned that it's going to be an hour-and-a-half, 2-hour commercial pumping esports.
Yeah.
Trying to push the esports as a real sport and blah, 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 blah. And I'm so sick of that dialogue. Another topic you and I have discussed, Jason, where it's just, I'm done with that. Yes, okay, fine. You want to recognize it as real sport? Great. I'm all in favor of that. Go ahead. They're building a new arena and they're going to do this. I don't want to watch an hour-and-a-half commercial on it, though, right?
No.
And that's a big danger here. And that's, yes, you said it. I think this is going to be more marketing than documentary.
More marketing than art.
Yeah, there you go. And Jason's not happy unless someone dies. That's the only way a Dota 2 documentary is any good, if someone dies.
I want to see the guys who lose afterwards, just like, they can't afford the bus ride home or whatever.
Oh my god.
They have to sleep on the street.
They're like, oh man, this was my last chance to pay my mortgage. Now I'm out in the street. My kids are on the street.
I want to see the mafia guys coming to break their knees after because they can't repay their debt.
And they bet on themselves.
Yeah, there you go.
We lent you that laptop. Now you got to pay us back for it. Yeah, I mean, I'll still watch it, of course, just to see how it is. I definitely think Valve knows a cinematic approach. They have shown through their own games that they can really do cinematic really well, and I think that in terms of how it's shot and how it's done, it'll be very professional, and it certainly will have a pretty good presentation. There's a lot of documentaries that we see that are pretty shoddy in how they're put together, and I don't think that's going to be an issue. But like you said, Magic Man, it could rub off as an hour-and-a-half long. Hey, you guys should really try out Dota 2. It's a really awesome game. Look at all these people watching it that are your age. Haha.
Like I said, a marketing expense.
Exactly. We'll see how it is. March 19th, a little less than 22 days or so away. 24 days, 23 days, something like that. Not too bad. We'll see how it turns out. And until then, we can continue watching documentaries with people dying in them, I guess.
Yeah.
I just watched Senna, which is a documentary about a Formula 1 driver that died at the end, so I guess that one counts. I'll have to recommend you that, Jason. Seems like right up your alley. All right. Speaking of dying, Planetside 2. Boom. 2 pieces of butter.
And Spotify gets the 2 pats of butter award today.
Yeah, there we go. Now I just need 2 pieces of toast. There we go. You guys are my toast. I bring the butter. You guys are the toast.
You are not spreading butter on me, you sick son of a...
No.
I'm out of this.
I was just gonna lay. Never mind. It's getting hot in this room.
Take your shirt off, big boy.
Oh, whoa!
Hey, man, he's talking about smearing butter on us.
Oh man, Planetside 2 got smoothed over a little bit.
Oh!
I can't.
Something ain't quite right with this group.
Yeah, there was an update to Planetside.
It's you and me. It's you and me, Magic Man. It's just.
It is.
We can't be put together. We're like Matter.
We bring the butter. That's
You
what
bring
we
the butter.
That's what we do.
As I would say in the past, it's been quite the matter in your mouth evening.
Oh yeah, good old
Yeah.
Matter.
Matter in your mouth. That's a staple saying here on the Free Play Podcast. Goes way back with me and Jason. Planetside 2 though, there was quite a revamp that occurred with Amerish continent. The third continent available on Planetside 2 is the jungle mountainous continent. And pretty much the least played out of the three, I would have to say. It seemed.
My dog just went ape shit. I'm sorry.
Oh God.
Your dog loves Amerish.
He is
butter.
pumped about Planetside 2,
like,
and he heard butter, and that was it.
He heard butter, then he heard toast, and then Planetside 2. It's just too much at once. This update for Planetside 2, Magic Man, you said you're not much of a shooter guy, right?
Oh no, I like shooters.
Oh,
I'm bad
okay.
at them. I'm bad
at them.
It's
You
like
play
MOBAs.
Planetside 2 much?
I enjoy a good MOBA. I'm just not going to win, and I've already accepted that. I do get into Planetside 2 in spurts. It's definitely a game that I play like crazy for 2 to 3 weeks, and then don't touch for a month and a half.
I have that same feeling. I definitely, and I wanted to talk about that after we sort of talked about the update, about how Planetside 2 has sort of progressed over the year it's been out, and if it has that sort of sticky feeling where you really just stick to it, you know?
Like it's been rubbed down with butter.
Exactly. You know, the butter rubs down, then it sort of just sticks there, and then, you know, you put your fingers on it, next thing you know, you're just having this grimace on your face, and that kind of stuff. So the update to Planetside 2, the Amerish update, it adds the lattice system, which is...
Oh my god.
He's
sorry.
very excited about that lattice system. It's like,
Not lettuce, dog. Lattice.
lattice.
Got the vegetarian dog.
We got the butter, the lettuce, the toast. This is an interesting sandwich so far.
Planetside 2.
Planetside 2. The lattice system of Planetside 2, of course, is where you can actually chain together all the different continents, and that, you know, it basically funnels in all the combat into more concentrated areas and brings the fight to you instead of having people hack so much. It was available in the sort of similar setup in the original Planetside, which I think is kind of funny that Planetside 2 launched with different things. You know, it did things differently than the original Planetside, and then it just over time became Planetside 1 again with updated graphics in some respects. But the update, not only did the update change with the lattice system, you know, they didn't just add a lattice system, it sounds like lettuce system now whenever I talk about it. They didn't just add the lattice system, they moved bases around, but they updated them too. So Magic Man, you know, and Jason, both of you have played Planetside. If one thing I think you guys can agree on is the fact that for the longest time it seemed like the bases were completely cookie cutter. Like they were pretty much like 2 or 3 base designs, and that was it. You know, major base designs. It was kind of like that. All the other buildings were pretty much the same, and we really didn't see any base diversity until we saw like Esamir and got some like bases under snow and stuff. So they changed them up. They updated the layouts. They completely changed some of the looks, and overall they added 9 new outpost styles. Some of them being underground. So we have some of our first underground bases within Planetside 2, and certainly that's going to offer some different sort of gameplay mechanics and, you know, different strategies and lots of grenades being thrown in tight spaces.
Yes.
I don't really know how I feel about that so much, but
in those tight spaces, you need the butter.
You do need the butter. Just move quickly, just shoot right through, you know?
Just lube it up, chuck in a grenade.
So I kind of wanted to... You know, this is a great update. This is a big update. Obviously, it brings good changes to Amerish that's been done on Indar and on Esamir. But I kind of wanted to take a moment here to sort of have a look at Planetside 2 now that it's been a little bit over a year since it was originally launched, and kind of reflect upon what it was at launch and then where it is now, just a couple of years later. Of course, it has changed dramatically. The lattice system's been implemented. They've done a lot to change the resource system and some of the progression. They've made large alterations to that. And then I have to give it to SOE. They've really sort of been listening to player feedback and implementing what they want. Particularly a big example of that would be the performance updates that they dropped doing content updates for, just so they could focus on that. But I'm not here to just talk about what Sony's done right. I'm here to talk about, have they done what they promised to do? When they, when we originally were hearing about Planetside 2 back in 2012, Magic Man, there was a lot of sort of hoopla about the ability that we're going to be able to build bases. We're going to be able to have outfit-built bases, and there's going to be this water and interconnected, continents and all this kind of stuff. And it was talked about as if it was either going to be in launch or going to be quickly after launch. There's a Smedley blog that I linked you guys to where he talked about these are things that they are going to add or going to, looking at it like ASAP right after launch at the very end of it. And this is circa 2012. They said harvestable resources, player-owned bases, water between continents, lots more vehicles and weapons, NPC enemies, NPC armies, and then esports support.
Now, to be fair, in that blog, Smedley does say, I want to be crystal clear and say that these are not promises, they're ideas. But I do share your concern that now we're a year plus away, and none of these have even been talked about, let alone implemented. Like the last time we heard about them was this blog a year and a half ago.
One of the only things that I can sort of find that is at all being touched on now or is on the horizon is the sort of continent locking, which they talked about. The ability to lock a continent and then have that as a major shift in the metagame because it pushes players off that continent and onto other ones which may be less played, and it sort of adds a lot to that depth, that metagame. The problem with that I see, though, is it still doesn't really give long-term progression, which I think is something that Planetside 2 has really, as a sandbox, as a touted sandbox MMO FPS, it really needs, some sense of progression. They talk about how you can have these ever-struggling wars where, battles will wage on for hours and sides will get pushed around. That's fine, but if there's no, capture and hold that's, has a real sense of ownership, then you just kind of, you have a lobby-based shooter that's constantly going. The lobby's always going. There's always a fight. It's just a bigger lobby. It's just a continent at that point. There is no real, in-depth metagame or micro game going on other than the fights in between the continents. So, Magic Man, Jason, do you think that SOE has overall provided enough evidence that they are competent with sort of developing these large-scale sandbox-style MMO FPS? I mean, it took EVE Online a long time to get to where it is now, for sure. But EVE Online started many years ago. Technology's updated, and we were talking about SOE here. So, I don't know. Are you more disappointed that Planetside 2 isn't farther along, or do you kind of feel like it's pretty good where it's at? Whoever wants to say anything.
I think that you're right. Looking at that blog and all the ideas he had, I think that Smedley had, I think they're not where they wanted to be. I mean, that was kind of obvious by the fact that whenever it was almost a year ago now, where they said, we're not going to really do more development. We're gonna fix up all the points that we need to iterate on and make game run faster, as they called it. I think, and I think they got into it a little while, realized it wasn't going to be maybe as easy as they thought it would be to implement all this new stuff, because they're working on their new engine, their Forge Light engine. Maybe they haven't even mastered everything that can be done with that. And I think they had to take that approach and make it a decent playing game first before they tried to add too much fancy stuff, which on the one hand, I get that. I think that's admirable, because you want to have a good experience when people jump in, even if the old timers might get a little bored with it, but on the other hand, you do have to keep putting in that new stuff to keep the old timers sticking around. Like you said, maybe better progression or new game modes or new maps or whatever. I don't know that they can necessarily keep going with what they're doing now, which is just the refinement and the iteration and so on. I think they need to produce something pretty big this year, something on the level of a major update or almost like an expansion like you'd have for a typical MMO. I think they need to have some big motion this year to keep the people around who've been there since more or less day one.
They had the roadmap where they provide all of their, planned updates, and you were talking about how mainly those are just iterations. They're like fixes to current classes, revisements to current classes.
And they've added a few guns and so on. They added the blaster vehicle here and there, but that's relatively small, it seems.
Yeah, it essentially does feel relatively small. It does feel like cash-up items, like mainly like guns are a cash-up item, even if it does change the gameplay somewhat. And it sort of gives, for me, a little bit, it gives concern, it brings up concern about, their next MMOs. EverQuest Next Landmark, EverQuest Next. If this is where we're at with Planetside 2, 2 years after sort of unveiling their grand plan, I mean, EverQuest Next Landmark has the same style of roadmap system that Planetside 2 is. And you mentioned that Planetside 2, they would need something big this year. And so far on that roadmap, all that's been sort of announced is the fact that they're tentatively going to be adding the locking, continent locking. I mean, that's it. That's it. That's
what happened to Hausen? Isn't that the next?
That's part of it. Hausen was sort of already ready, but they wanted to wait a little bit to sort of have it once everything was more stable. Because when I actually got to see a preview of it at SOE Live, and they just mentioned that because of the foliage, it actually had more of an impact on players' CPUs and GPUs. So they were working on that some. But yeah, there's Hausen, which again is another continent. Okay, it adds to the whole metagame of locking continents, but even then, it's like another map. It doesn't really add new gameplay other than having new tactics of where you go on the map. Is it really adding that sticky feeling like we were talking about earlier? The ability to say, man, I just want to keep playing this over and over and over instead of just getting burned out of it after every couple weeks. And then
I wouldn't necessarily be worried about EQN or Landmark yet. If you're disappointed about Planetside 2's direction and how far they've come, I can totally understand that argument. You saw this whole wall of crazy before launch, and almost none of that wall has even been talked about, let alone put into the game. But to be fair here,
we're all about being fair.
To be fair, I honestly think that there was a series of events that really surprised the hell out of Sony Online Entertainment when Planetside 2 came out. The first of which being the tech. It fell apart. It fell apart, and they had to make it go faster, right? They had to go through all that stuff. Once they did that, there was the huge backlash about the certs and the rate on which you were able to actually get the certs versus buy the certs and blah, 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 blah. Then, on top of that, you had the huge botting problem that the game had. So this is all development time, right? That is now being eaten away because things have to be reshifted and reallocated to go and address things. And I was at MMOBomb at the time, we covered numerous articles back then, Spunkify, on Sony Online bans X number. And X number was always very big, remember? They were always very big numbers.
They brought the hammer down on them.
Yeah, they did. But it was one thing after another. And then once you're months into it and you've addressed those things, now they're 6-7 months into it, I think the last big surprise was the really poor adoption rate of Planetside 2 by Planetside 1 players. The adoption rate, for the graduation rate, if you will, of graduating from Planetside to Planetside 2 wasn't as big as I think they might have anticipated. And I think that's why you see this year more focus on implementing items that are more familiar to Planetside players, the original Planetside players, and trying to pull a little more of that audience in. I still have faith. Smedley always is on his Twitter. If you don't follow the man on Twitter, follow him. He's hysterical. Besides getting information, he's an absolute riot, and sometimes he says the most ridiculous things. I still have faith that we're going to see a lot of these different, very, very unique aspects in Planetside 2. I think we haven't seen them because for the first 8 to 10 months, everything got shifted to different places to be more reactionary than proactive.
Yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming from that. And I would have to say that is most likely where a good chunk of that win. I think maybe SOE showed their hand a little bit too early with some of their things that they were talking about, you know, because it would be one thing if they just promised a couple things and then, you know, the tech got behind and, oh, you know, we'll have to wait on those things, sure. But when you build up in everybody's minds, this is where we're going, this is what we want to do, and after 2 years, you know, you're not even to that point. Yeah, it starts to feel like more is not in the game than what is. But even despite, you know, the setbacks and what have you,
I don't let it influence my anticipation of EQN though.
Oh,
and I'm not. I've been in Landmark. I paid for that whole alpha thing and all that jazz. But I am excited for N, and I don't let it concern me, the development on Planetside 2, simply because they're two totally different Sony Online teams.
Sure.
And the EQN team is much bigger than the Planetside team. So I still have faith in you, Smed. I hold the SOE faith right now.
Having played,
because you spent $100 on the Landmark.
You
thing,
shut up,
have to have
Jason.
faith.
Yeah. Yeah,
Trixie, that's enough from you.
You should just be like the rest of us and just have them given to us so we can try it out. You know, that's totally the same thing. Yeah, I having played EverQuest Next Landmark, I would definitely say I enjoy the game and I think it's coming along pretty well. I just a little bit worried about, because when I went to the SOE Live presentation of EverQuest Next, and a lot of the stuff that they were promising in EverQuest Next sounded like a lot of the stuff they were promising in Planetside 2. You know, a lot of large-scale, ambitious ideas of where they wanted things to go, how they wanted it to be. In Landmark, certainly, I think it will be a little bit more of an achievable goal, which is why I think they're doing it first, obviously, you know, while they're still working on the tech. I definitely think, just like Planetside 2 had technical hurdles, the voxels are going to be a huge technical hurdle for SOE. Right. And that may prove to be, you know, on launch day in issue 2, just how things fell apart for Planetside. So there's still, SOE likes to push boundaries. They like to, you know, at least now they like to push boundaries. They like to try new tech. And I think sometimes, like you were mentioning, that tech does tend to get in the way of their goals. But they seem to be one of the only developers around willing to take forward, ambitious thinking chances with MMOs, at least, you know, and do it visibly, right? Do it, you know, out in the public, you know, for everybody to see their mistakes as well as their triumphs. So yeah, you've sort of softened my my perception of SOE a little bit there, Magic Man, just a bit.
Well, Smedley, you can mail the check to Mike Magic Man Burn at. I'll give you the address after the show.
Yes, exactly.
Just give me your PayPal. Just
right. There you go.
That being said, I am curious, Magic Man. Are you looking forward more towards the creation aspect of EverQuest Next Landmark, or are you looking more towards the traditional MMO aspects of EverQuest Next? Like, which one are you a little bit more excited for right now?
It's not even close in my book. It's EverQuest Next.
Okay.
It's not even close.
I didn't know if you were like a Minecraft fan.
Around in Landmark, but Landmark is kind of, even in the alpha stage, I know it's going to get better and better and all that jazz, but even if it was crystal clear and polished and everything right now, to me, it's a Minecraft game, and those types of games are the ones that I sit down, I jump into, and I play for like 6 hours straight, and then who knows when the hell I'm going to pick it up again. I'm just not really a creation guy. I'd rather have you and Jason build some cool shit, and I'll come and check it out.
Yeah.
I'm huge into story and lore and all that. EQN is by far the one I'm most excited for.
Yeah, I'm the kind of guy where I went into EverQuest Next Landmark, and I chopped down some trees, and I mined out a hole, and I'm like, oh, that was fun. All right, I'm done. I can dig a hole in the shape of a smiley face. That's pretty awesome.
Just like with Minecraft, just like with that, you know, when I'll see some article about somebody remaking like the entire city in Game of Thrones or something, I like following. You know, I follow Dave Georgeson, the EverQuest Next lead developer, and he tweets out pictures of stuff that people are making. I like that as much as I would like actually playing Landmark. Just seeing the stuff people are making.
I'm already surprised by what some players have built in EverQuest Next Landmark. I'm
like, exactly.
I mean, I think it's mainly because of the fact that I knew they had to go mine those resources. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of stuff. Like, you spent quite some time in EverQuest Next Landmark, I can see. But all right, that's going to wrap up our game news for this week. Quite a interesting sort of roundup of discussionary points. Moving on, we've got our member DOTA A-bombs, and I will begin as per usual. That's how things go. The host goes first, and then the co-host goes second and third. That is the way of the hierarchy, I guess. Yeah.
If we kill you, does that mean we get to go first?
Maybe. Yeah.
Is there a chain of succession here?
There is. This is like
It's
Rome.
like
You got to work your way up the chain.
No, it's like the Mirror Universe Enterprise. If they kill Captain Kirk, everybody moves up in rank.
Oh, thanks for calling me Captain Kirk. Yeah.
You're a male skank.
Oh, skanky. All right. Well, thanks.
I'm covered in butter.
Butter. I'm gonna give an A-bomb to, I'm gonna say their name right, Mait. Yeah, it's Mait Games for their open beta / early access launch of GunZ 2. It was quite bad. I felt it was pretty much a defining example of how not to launch a game on Steam after promoting it heavily, because I think they launched with only a server capacity of 1,500 players. So you can imagine on Steam, first day, highly anticipated game, 1,500 players. I couldn't play for 6 days straight. I couldn't actually log into the servers, and they had a lot of server issues. And of course, it's early access, open beta. Things are subject to happen, but come on, 1,500 players. You could have expected a little bit more than that, just a bit. Overall, though, the game itself, I don't think, it's definitely not the original GunZ. It's not a successor to GunZ. It's sort of its own thing that tries to incorporate a couple things of the original one, but gotta say overall, just not my cup of tea, and didn't really like waiting 6 days to find that out. So, the bomb to GunZ 2 and Mait Games, you just rubbed me wrong this week, guys. I'm sorry.
Rubbed you wrong with butter.
Rubbed me wrong. I don't think you can rub wrong with butter. It have to be like porcupines or cactuses.
I think it's cacti, isn't it?
Cacti, yeah.
Some people are into that sort of thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's true. Jason, are you?
No.
Projecting? No. Jason, what's your A-bomb to bomb?
My A-bomb is to the MMO Wars of 2014, which I made the terrible mistake. Yeah, I like that. I made the terrible mistake this week of when I'm not just reading MMO news, but I decided to look at the comments on articles.
Oh,
I should never have done it. I can tell you one thing that I know from all the comments is that every game coming out this year is going to absolutely suck. It is the worst thing ever, and everyone should be embarrassed that it exists. That's what I learned from reading the comments. I'm just stop. People just stop. If you don't like, WildStar, or you don't like Elder Scrolls Online or EverQuest, or you don't care about Draenor or whatever, you don't have to put on the comments of the article how much it's going to suck. Even better, don't put on that it's going to fail, because it probably isn't. Because it's probably going to be really successful to a lot of people who aren't you.
If it's not,
I don't like a lot of games. I get on MOBAs all the time. That doesn't mean I think League of Legends is going to fail. I don't like Final Fantasy 14. That game is crap, in my opinion. Waiting for him to say something.
Hold my lip.
Okay.
Hold my lips. Hold my lips.
But I recognize that it's doing well. It's sold a lot of copies. It has a lot of people playing it. I just don't like it. And I don't go on the message boards of 14 or articles and say this game sucks. People still play that. Do people still play that? So
does that go in direct contradiction to me just railing on GunZ 2?
No, because you actually played it. So that's the thing, is that most people who are on there are talking, because like I said, a lot of it's for games that are coming out.
Sure.
It's like everybody knows Elder Scrolls Online is going to fail. Even if I've never played it, just from reading it, I know it's going to be terrible. Well, whatever. You can make some kind of judgment on something even without playing, because we all kind of have to when a game hasn't come out yet. We have to sort of make our own little opinions on it. Mm-hmm. But separate what you feel about the game with how you think it's going to do.
Hey, from what I've been reading on the internet, Elder Scrolls is going to be free to play by the end of early access.
Well, that might happen too, but it's going to sell millions of copies. There's no doubt about that. It's going to make somebody some money. But anyway, by the way, SWTOR is still doing great. It really is.
It is doing well. It's doing very financially well.
Yes.
Sounded like Jason was writing an angry letter to an ex. And you know what? Just because you say it's like this doesn't mean it's like that. And I just hate when you...
It's not you, it's me. But really, it's you. It's totally you.
Please.
I'm just saying it's me to be nice. But in actuality, to be clear, it's you.
Always. Magic Man.
I'm gonna turn it around here and give a dub bomb bring the mood back up a little
All right.
bit. After GunZ and the MMO wars, Final Fantasy XIV is the best MMO ever created. No.
The bomb to
Jason,
Final Fantasy
Jason
XIV.
knows I play a lot of Final Fantasy XIV. A lot of Final Fantasy XIV. But he also knows that I am smart enough to also turn around and say, it's generic if you compare it to other MMOs. I just happen to enjoy it, and more importantly, the group I play with. So that's why I did jump on Jason. His opinion, it may be right. Who knows? I just enjoy my group. But I'm going to give it a dub bomb, and I'm going to give it to... I'm going to give it to you, Spunkify.
What?
And more recently, to you, Mr. Winter.
Oh.
I've very much enjoyed... I loved my time at MMOBomb, and unfortunately, you know, it didn't work out to come back. Fine. But I have really enjoyed episode 63 and forward after I left the site, listening to not only the show continue, which I really wanted to see because it was my baby, right?
Mm-hmm.
I really wanted to see it continue, and so I was happy to see that you took it over and you did well with it. But not only that, a dub bomb to the way you've grown, sir, as a host. And as a commentator. Listen to episode 63, your first one, and then listen and be on this show. It's two totally different Spunkifies. You've done a wonderful job, and I can't help but love listening every week. And Jason, you are, you know, you and I do other stuff together. You know I have a very high opinion of you, and having you join this show just was huge, great news to me when you first became a host here. So dub bomb to you two guys. Love the show. Here's to 100 more.
So
I'm gonna cry.
should I send the check to you, or should I just forward it to John?
You just forward it to John. It'll get over here.
It's a circle anyways. Well, quite thank you. I appreciate that. I don't know if I'm blushing or not. Maybe it's just really hot in this room, but it feels like I'm blushing all over my body.
I'm not gonna check. But yes, thank you.
That's
Thank
my
you very
own.
much.
That's what I added to this. That's what I added to this.
A very weird effect on Spunkify.
You do? Oh my gosh.
Get him to smother me in butter and he blushes.
Blush all over my body. It has nothing to do with the fact that I'm in a closed, cramped room with no fan and a giant computer case, but it's all about you, Magic Man. You're all with your sweet words, just buttering me up. I just can't thank you enough for all the kind words, and we'll have to have you back for the 200 episode. You know, just every 100 episodes, right? Just
there you go. I'm more than happy to come anytime.
awesome. All right, well, why don't we go ahead and check out what the members had to say. The member highlights. We've got one here from Imoko-chan 13. Interesting name there. He's one of 13 Imoko-chans. Whatever those are. He says, the bomb for SOE for deciding to focus on sandbox games. It's about time someone saw reason. Wow. Theme parks are so last decade. Now just hope they don't screw it up. Wow.
They did with Planetside too. No.
This person seems like they were here for the episode. Like they knew exactly what we were going to talk about. Yeah, we hope they don't screw it up too. That's a big thing for us. Magic Man.
Oh, I knew you were gonna give me this one. As soon as I saw the game it was about, I knew
This one actually isn't supposed to be there. I just mixed it up with you.
That was last week's, wasn't
That
it?
was last week's.
Okay,
It snuck in there. So I mixed it up even more.
Well, Breckner Catalan says, I have a dub bomb for Soulforge, one of the most fun free CCGs out there. Tournaments and PvP are addicting. Even bot battles are fun. Getting legendary cards reminds me of Christmas. There you go. I'm going to have to play some Soulforge. I'm trying to get into Hex right now. So Soulforge sounds like it'd probably be a nice touch.
I had another bomb, and then I realized I copied the same person's comment, so...
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what happened there, but it was actually
Chaos
about.
in the
It was
notes.
about
Chaos
another.
showed up.
Yeah, see, Magic Man came on board. I had this all set up nicely, and then I forgot to put salt in the food, you know, and so now we've got this issue here where something's missing. I don't know why I chose that as the analogy, but I figure like a small detail like that, you know, ruins the overall meal. Who knows?
Well, it was given by a name I recognize as a longtime MMO bomber. So
Yes.
I do want to shout out to all the long timers.
They're still here, man.
Mounted.
They're still here,
That's
and they're still supporting. I'm really, really glad that they've stuck around through these years, and really just glad overall to have everybody still here. So I guess we'll go
at least 10% like me.
At least 10%.
At least 10%. Yeah.
Hey,
Not-
as
not
long
to-
as you say mounted, Jason, you're good.
I've seen that. I've seen that's the way of things here.
That has persisted. I cannot even believe it's
I've
persisted.
noticed.
I was pretty impressed with it. Hey, you know what? I actually found the comment. I found it, and I'm giving it to you right now. It's actually from UDK Facey, and Jason, why don't you go ahead and read it?
All right. UDK Facey. He or she says, I have a big old bomb for addressing the concerns of the 1.0 and free-to-play worries of the Archage International and U.S. players for doing all that to Excel games. I can't wait to play Archage. I'm going to play the Russian open beta test. Can't wait for the U.S. North American release. Also, bring Squid back.
Arcade is also a sandbox game.
Yes, but it is maybe going to be free-to-play? Who knows?
No, it's going to be free.
You sure?
Yeah, Trion's the one carrying it in
the
US and NA, and they've said they made a comment a long time ago that they were going to stick to the existing model, which on that side of the pond was sub at one time but went free to play.
Okay.
So it's likely that the free to play is going to be adopted in the US and the rest of North America when and if. I mean, that's a concern too, right?
Whenever it's going to
the way Trion's been going lately.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it should be free to play.
You heard it here first, guys. Someone who doesn't work at Tryon confirms it's free to play. Quick, let's go write it on BuzzFeed.
But we want to dump him and bring Squid back.
Yes, Squid. Yeah, Magic Man, you have to come back for another episode when we have Squid on. Then it'll be Magic Squid and Spunk.
There you go.
Magic Squid Spunk. There we go.
Terrible title.
Winter, we gotta shoehorn Winter in there somewhere.
The Magic Winter Squid Spunk. I don't know.
There we go. That sounds like a Christmas special.
Sounds awful.
The question of the week last week was, is there a downside to sandbox titles? So we talked about, obviously, we hoop and holler about how sandbox adds great new gameplay mechanics, a lot of emergent gameplay, as what some developers would say back in 2013 when they were saying MMO stuff. But is there a downside to them? And Hazujian pointed out a downside. He said, the most negative aspect of sandbox MMOs that I can think of would be the liberty of griefing. The biggest problem is when griefing becomes too pronounced, devs will have to introduce restrictions to combat the issue. That's when things start moving in the opposite direction. Less sandbox, more restrictions. Moreover, sandbox environments usually put a bigger strain on the hardcore versus casual dilemma. A hardcore player gains an even bigger advantage in sandbox games compared to the previous iterations, thus putting the devs in a difficult spot. Do we impose restrictions on farming? Do we offer questionable items in the cash shop? Or do we just let things go and hope for the best? Good luck, guys. The podcast rocks. Thank you so much, Hazujin. So he does bring up some sort of issues that sandbox games could have, the Wild West effect, if you will. This is an issue you get when you have just a kind of totally open anarchy kind of sandbox. Is that you're going to get the people who do spend 10 hours a day playing. They just obliterate anyone who isn't as hardcore as them. And it's something that every game wants to bring in new players, and that's tough to do when you have no chance whatsoever in the early part of it. Now I think we talk about like SOE, what they're doing, how they're bringing back more sandboxes and so on. I think they are, but they are smart enough to know they can't go with that complete anarchy kind of mode. They have to put in some sort of structure, some sort of restrictions, as this guy says. It's gonna piss off the people who want the absolutely pure sandboxes, but it's gonna make it more accessible to people who don't want to just get ganked the instant they set 5 feet outside of a town or something. Yeah, I think EVE Online would be a good example of like the extreme of Wild West. EVE Online, even Mortal Online, both of those games, very, very extreme penalties for dying. New players are at a severe disadvantage versus those who have been playing for quite a while. And I think that's one thing that sandbox MMOs, you're at a disadvantage, but once you get at the level cap, suddenly you could be at the same playing field. Whereas in sandbox MMOs, it's not necessarily about the level cap. It's about, your experience or your levels. And so it doesn't matter. You could be grief throughout in any areas, in a pub or out and about. It doesn't really matter where. You can technically not be safe if someone really wants to kill you or go after you. I don't know. I'm still very much a fan of just, shit happening in MMO. So I definitely don't mind the griefing so much. Magic Man, are you much of a, like, do you get really angry when you get griefed, or you just sort of throw? Are you a PvE MMO player, or are you a PvP in the sense
You're
that
Care Bear?
Do you go on PvP servers? Do you push the hardcore button?
I will. I'm generally a PvE. That's the experience I want, but I do play on PvP servers because I'm not opposed to that type of challenge and or griefing, even if I'm not very good at it. I think one thing that it wasn't mentioned here, though, negative aspect of sandbox is those games are more drastically impacted by a population flux.
Mm-hmm.
When those populations start going down, they start going down fast, and the game can collapse very quickly because it's very hard to expand a sandbox MMO, right? You have Draenor coming out, which adds this content, this PvE and PvP content to an existing theme park style game. So people come back to play that new content. It's very challenging to do that same type of expansion and draw on a sandbox game. And when the population goes down, everybody notices it and they stop playing, which causes other people to notice it, and it can collapse very quickly if there's not enough there to keep people vested in it. So just something else, when I saw the sandbox and challenges with it, that's a big one. A huge one.
It certainly adds extreme pressure to get new content out and new things to do in a sandbox environment, because when you can do anything in a sandbox, inevitably you're going to find something that you can't do that you want to do. And, it's making sure to sort of cater to those players and, and push content that would allow them to further, what they're trying to do, and further, their community involvement. Because community is one of the biggest parts, like you mentioned, being able to have a open community where you can do trades and, the economy. If you imagine EVE Online having a huge reduction in players, all of a sudden their economy collapses, which is the backbone of how anything is done in EVE Online. Practically every item is sold by a player. So suddenly you lose those people, can't have the economy going anymore, and you lose out. So yes, that's a good point. Nicely done, Magic Man.
Well, yes, I try, sir.
You've got the touch, man. You've got that magic touch. You can find those things that.
Is that what that was?
Oh, I guess. Now I'm not sure. Now I'm a little bit scared. I don't know what it was. And question of the week this week was, what are your thoughts on releasing games through early access? So first it was indie games, then it was AAA titles, now it's free-to-play games going through early access. What are your thoughts on that? I kind of think it's like a new step in between closed beta and open beta, where they can still charge money, but they don't necessarily have to have a fully functioning game yet, kind of. Like, I've seen extreme examples, say, for example, Loadout. That is an early access title, which was pretty much completely done, in the sense that they were just doing bug fixes and tune-ups. Early access, almost the full features were there. Then you have other games which are way earlier in development. Gloria Victis is a prime example, a semi-realistic medieval-themed MMORPG. Still very early in development, but it's been cleared for early access. So I'm really just kind of curious whether or not people actually enjoy trying out titles through the early access, or whether they think it's actually healthy for the development and sort of like, that MMO or that game, in the long run, is early access actually something that's healthy for that game? Or does it burn players out on it earlier? That's the question. And those are some things that you should actually think about when you return and respond with your answers. Boy, this has been quite a long episode, but it's been so much fun having you, Magic Man, and Jason Winter, of course. Sorry to put you second, Jason.
That's fine. I'm second to you guys. I'm the young kid here.
Oh, come on, Jason. You're like Robin.
In terms of age on this show, I haven't done as much as you guys have.
That's fair. That's
what I'd be. Yeah. We will get into.
Magic Man was just the guest of honor, so he goes first in everything as the guest.
And what's funny is Spunkify still has 24 episodes before he catches me, so I'm like the old head here.
Oh, you counted.
Oh, wow.
I
Now
lost
he's
count
down.
actually.
Now
I didn't know how
we
many
have
I
to
was behind. I forget I forget which episode I took over on.
I did my last episode was 62, so your first one where you were the official host would have been 63. You had been on a few prior to that as we kind of started to segue.
So I'm at 37 episodes.
You took over at 63.
So yeah, you still have almost half of what I have over me.
Yeah, so I'm old.
You are. You're quite an old man.
It's been a blast. Thank you for the invite. I really appreciate it. It was nice to come back and celebrate 100 with the MMO bombers. I've missed you, and of course it wouldn't be right if I didn't tell them we'll see you on the servers.
Of course. But that's a little bit preemptive, just a tiny bit. We're almost done.
No, I just had to get it in there.
Oh,
I didn't
okay.
say signing. Oh, it's your show. You do
of course, but that's your sign off. You know, you blew it early. I don't know.
Hey, whoa. Shh.
Jason, didn't you have something you wanted to announce? Something debuting on MMOBomb tomorrow?
Yes, it should be, well, tomorrow as we're saying it now, it should be up and running by the time you listen to this podcast. We are doing the MMOBomb Ultimate Free-to-Play Showdown. It is a series of brackets, 64 of the top free-to-play games going against each other in head-to-head matchups.
Do or die.
Where you guys will decide who advances and who is crowned the best free-to-play game in all the world. Check it out on the MMOBomb site. We will give updates there via Twitter. So check it out. Make your voice heard. Get your favorite game out there.
And we have cleared this with a UN, so it is being recognized in all the world. Like
it is sanctioned.
It is sanctioned.
Yes, the winner of this championship will take on the best free-to-play game from Venus.
Exactly.
The winner gets a seat at the UN.
It's the Miss Universe, but for free-to-play games, essentially.
The UN recognizes the delegation from Scarlet Blade.
Yes. Oh, quite extensively. Yes. Well, I'm going to look forward to that, no doubt. But that's going to wrap up our 100th episode. Quite the lengthy episode, but it was so worth it. There's going to be a lot of one-liners from this episode. I can feel it.
It's going to take days to clean this butter up.
Oh, it just was a lot of fun. Magic Man and Jason, it was so much fun having you guys on this week. If you guys want to reach me personally, Spunkify, and tell me how much you want Magic Man back as a host instead of me, or whatever other comments you want to make. The matter in the mouth, or how about how I talked about butter too much? I don't know. If you want to reach me, you can do so on Twitter at twitter.com/Spunkify if you want to delete my profile, or at Spunkify. And then if you want to actually reach me through email, you can do so by typing in your email address bar, michael@mmobomb.com. Send me fan mail, send me pictures you've drawn, love letters, poems, just whatever. I don't care. I'm looking forward to it.
Send him butter.
Butter. Much butter. Magic Man, you're the host, the guest host.
Yes.
How do they get a hold of you, man?
You can follow me on Twitter. That's at MagicMan1. Still the same, MAGICKMANN1. So a little funky spelling. MagicMan1, or of course, as Spunkify mentioned at the top of the show, you can check out the numerous shows I host over on GameBreaker.tv. So check it out.
And then Jason Winter?
Yes, you can find me on the Twitter at WinterInformal. You can find me blogging at jasonwinter.wordpress.com, and you can find me streaming at twitch.tv/JasonWinter. And I'm going to have something else starting up soon, but that'll be later.
Ooh.
Yes.
That's what you call a tease.
Did you get a billionaire to back you?
Yeah, I think I'd still be here if I did.
Is this a Kickstarter?
I mean, I love you guys. This is great.
Oh, yeah. Hopefully it's a Kickstarter. He's doing, you know what he's doing? He's doing a spoken book. He's doing an audiobook.
He's doing Trixie.com. Yes!
Alrighty, guys. That's been it for the 100th episode here of the Free to Play Podcast. I've been Spunkify, and for all of us here in the Free to Play Podcast, and especially Magic Man and Jason, as Magic Man would always say,
we'll see you on the servers.
Till next time, guys. Spunkify out.